Most women after 60 believe a man's feelings fade when you're not around. That silence means indifference. But the truth, at this stage of life, absence doesn't erase emotion, it sharpens it, and it shows up in ways he often can't admit. Because love after 60 isn't about constant presence or grand gestures. It's about how deeply your absence unsettles his routines, his comfort, even his sense of security. 4 quiet signals to be exact, and once you see them, you'll realize your presence carries more weight than you thought. Welcome back to Journey After 60. Today, we're uncovering the 4 ways your absence stirs a man's emotions. Not through drama or distance, but through the subtle truths that reveal just how much you still matter. Before we dive in, if these conversations help you see relationships more clearly at this stage of life, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and save it for later. That way, whenever you wonder how much you really mean to him, you'll have these insights waiting for you. Now, let's step into the very first way your absence triggers his emotions, and it's something that quietly shakes his everyday life. Number 1. The empty space in his routine. The first crack he feels. When you step out of his daily life, the very first place he feels it isn't in his heart, but in his habits. After 60, routines become sacred. The morning coffee, the evening chat, the quiet presence during meals. When you're not there, the rhythm falters, and that gap unsettles him more than he admits. It's not about grand loneliness or dramatic longing. It's the small disruptions, pouring 1 cup instead of 2, sitting in silence where your voice usually fills the air, or walking past a chair that suddenly looks too empty. These little absences press against him, reminding him how much your presence stabilizes his days. Most women assume men only register absence when they feel deep love. But after 60, it's often the loss of shared patterns that stings the most. Your absence doesn't just leave a space in his heart, it rattles the structure of his everyday comfort. If you want to understand how strongly you affect him, don't look for poetic words or big declarations. Pay attention to how his routines shift when you are away. The unease, the small adjustments, the way he lingers in certain spots. These are quiet signs that your absence has triggered something he can't ignore. And once you see this first crack, you're ready to uncover the second way your absence reaches him. Not in his schedule, but in the emotions he tries hardest to hide. Number 2. The silence that speaks. How his emotions leak through. Men after 60 are often masters at keeping emotions tucked away. Years of being told to stay strong or hold it together means they rarely show sadness directly. But when you're absent, those unspoken feelings don't disappear, they slip out sideways. As the philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Light griefs are loquacious, but the great are dumb." His words remind us that the heaviest emotions often hide in silence, and in men, that silence becomes even louder when your presence is missing. You might notice it in sharper tones over small matters, in the sudden quiet that stretches too long, or even in how he distracts himself with TV, chores, or old routines. What looks like irritability or withdrawal is often the echo of your absence pressing on him. It's not that he wants to appear cold, it's that he doesn't always know how to translate missing you into words. So instead, it shows up in moods, gestures, and small shifts in how he carries himself. That silence, those sighs, that restless tapping of fingers, they're not nothing. They're the emotional residue of you not being there. Most women mistake these signs as disinterest, or even think he's happier alone. But the reality is quieter. Your absence unsettles his emotional balance, and what leaks out are fragments of feelings he's not practiced at naming. Understanding this changes everything. Instead of taking his silence as distance, you can see it for what it really is. Proof that your absence has touched him more deeply than he can admit. Because after 60, silence is rarely neutral. It carries the weight of disrupted routines, unsettled comfort, and emotions he no longer knows how to voice. What may look like indifference is often the opposite. His quiet is the only shield he has against revealing just how strongly your absence unsettles him. And this is where many women misread the signs. They see withdrawal, sharper tones, or long pauses, and assume he doesn't care. But in truth, those are the very signals that your presence still anchors his world. When you learn to read this hidden language, you stop mistaking quiet for distance and begin to see it for what it is. The quiet confession of a man who feels more than he shows. If this message speaks to you, tap save. That way, whenever you want a gentle reminder, this video will be right here waiting for you. And when you recognize this, you're ready for the third way absence speaks. Not through routines or moods, but how he behaves in the company of others. Number 3, the slip in public. How others notice before he does. Absence doesn't just echo in his private routines or silent moods. It often shows itself when he's around other people. After 60, men pride themselves on composure, steady, sociable, in control. Yet when you're not there, small cracks appear that others sometimes notice before he does. He may bring up your name in passing, even when the topic has little to do with you. Or he might sit a little quieter in group settings, where your presence would normally draw him out. Sometimes it's a glance at the empty seat beside him, or a story he retells just to feel you closer in conversation. These are not accidents. They're the subconscious ways he signals your absence in front of others. I've seen this play out with my close friend Richard. He lost his wife a few years ago, and even now, when we sit with our group for coffee, her absence still shows. He'll tell the same story about a trip they took together, or he'll pause halfway through a joke because she used to finish the punchline. None of us judge him. In fact, it's how we all know just how deeply her presence shaped his life. Richard doesn't need to say he misses her. His mannerisms already reveal it. Most women assume men hide their emotions best in public, but the opposite is often true. In the company of friends or family, the lack of your presence becomes more obvious because contrast exposes it. He is himself, yet not quite whole. And though he may never openly say it, those around him can sense it too. So what should women take from this? Don't dismiss those little cracks you notice in him when you're not around. Instead of confronting him with heavy questions like, "Do you miss me?" Try offering gentle openings, a warm message, a shared memory, or even just showing up with presence when you return. The goal isn't to test him, but to recognize that your absence already carries weight. By responding with patience and empathy, you give him the safety to let those quiet emotions come to the surface without fear of judgment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever noticed how a man shows his feelings when you're not there? Share your story in the comments. When you understand this, you see that your absence shapes not just his private world, but the way he carries himself among others. And that leads us to the fourth and perhaps most revealing way your absence stirs him, the way it shapes his choices for the future. Number 4. The choices he makes. Absence shapes his future. The final way your absence spurs a man after 60 isn't in his routines, his silence, or even how he behaves in public. It shows up in his decisions. At this stage of life, every choice feels heavier. Where he spends his time, who he invests in, what kind of future he dares to imagine. And your absence can quietly tilt the balance of those choices. He may hesitate to plan a trip if you're not there to share it. He may delay gatherings because the thought of facing them without you feels hollow. Or on the other hand, he may reach out more, taking steps to close the gap because he realizes life is too short to drift apart. These decisions, large and small, are proof that your presence or your absence shapes not only how he feels today, but how he sees tomorrow. From my own research into relationships after 60, I've seen this pattern confirmed again and again. In one survey from the National Council on Olding, nearly 68% of older men reported that the absence of a long-term partner directly influenced their daily decisions, from whether to maintain social connections to how they planned for the future. Most women assume men's long-term choices at this age are practical, finances, health, convenience, but look closer and you'll see something more personal. Your absence reminds him that comfort, joy, and even hope are tied to who stands beside him. He may never put it into words, yet the weight of his decisions reveals just how much space you occupy in his future. Recognizing these truths is only the first step. The real change comes in how you choose to respond. It's not about filling every silence or chasing constant affirmation, but about offering the kind of steady presence that gives him space to feel without fear. Encourage him through simple actions, inviting him to share decisions, making plans you can both look forward to, and showing him that his world is stronger with you in it. By meeting his quiet signals with patience and warmth, you help him lean into a future where your presence is not just wanted, but needed. That's why understanding these 4 signals matters. Your absence is never neutral. It leaves ripples in his routines, his emotions, his presence among others, and the choices that define his remaining years. And now we arrive at the part where everything comes together. This is where I'll gather all the pieces, the routines, the silences, the public slips, and the choices, so you can see the full picture of how your absence truly shapes a man's emotions after 60. At the end of everything we've uncovered today, one truth stands out. A man's emotions after 60 are revealed most clearly not in what he says, but in how he responds to your absence. His routines falter, his silence grows heavy, his behavior shifts around others, and his choices quietly bend toward or away from you. These four signals may seem subtle, but together they reveal just how deeply your presence anchors his life. And here's the lasting value. When you recognize these signs, you stop doubting your worth. You begin to see that your role in his world isn't measured by constant attention, but by the way your absence unsettles him. Love after 60 is not about clinging or proving. It's about realizing the quiet power you already hold in shaping his days and his future. As Rumi once wrote, "Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes. For those who love with heart and soul, there is no separation." Your presence lives in him even when you're not there. And that is the truest sign of connection at this stage of life. So if today's message gave you clarity, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Journey After 60, save it so you can return whenever you need a reminder, and share your reflections in the comments. Which of these four ways have you noticed most in your own journey? Until next time, thank you for being here, and may you carry these truths with warmth and confidence into the days ahead. Thanks for watching my video, and see you next time.